she kept a kosher home. My mother was a fabulous Jewish cook, and so she always made a great Sabbath dinner. She made something every Friday night that I absolutely hated, but and I couldn't get her to stop making it because everybody else but me in the family loved it. But one of the main things was gefilte fish, which I could not stand. And she made like a Luxenkugel, which is a noodle pudding. She made good food, just that to this day, I cannot stand gefilte fish. And so that was one of her main things, and she just couldn't get it. A lot of the Jewish people cook something called cholent. In Europe, it was called the poor man's dish because you could take the worst piece of meat and you put it in a huge pot with onions, with yellow eye beans, with potatoes, with something called kishke, which is stuffed derma. And she'd put it in this huge pot because there were four. I mean, I'm the smallest of the Hirschberg boys. So you had these four strapping guys. My father, they always had people over the house for dinner. He'd always bring people. And so my mother would give me this huge pot on a sled in the winter, and I would take it down to Goldberg's Bakery on Riverside Avenue, and they would put it, and they'd be like maybe 30 or 40 or 50 pots of cholent that people would bring down to the bakery. They would stick it in the oven, and during the night they would add water to it, and it would cook and cook and cook and cook. And even the worst piece of meat, by Saturday afternoon, tasted like filet mignon because it had all this food mixing with it, and it was tender. And then after services on Saturday, we'd all go down. I was the one who was designated. I'd go down with my sled. They'd put the cholent on the sled, and I'd bring it up, and that would be our 2:00 Saturday meal. And it could kill you because it was so heavy. It was the potatoes and beans and kishke and onions and beef. Tzimmus, she made two kinds of tzimmus. Tzimmus was, once again, always with brisket, because that's like a Jewish staple, a good piece of brisket. It's got to be first cut brisket. And it had, one of her tzimmuses would have carrots and sweet potatoes and a kugel. And then she'd make one that had like prunes and sweet and sour. She ground her own liver. I mean, I could just see her out there. She'd get out in the back step and she'd be grinding liver with onions and egg and adding. I mean, she made everything from scratch. She made great soups. She made great pies. She made bagel. I mean, Thursday was a treat for me. Thursday was a day she was always home. And you could be salivating because you knew that when you got home at 4:00, she would make bagel on Thursday, and she would have this warm bagel with butter and a glass of milk. I mean, it was like heaven, because in Burlington, the Jewish bakers only made one kind of bagel, and they only made it on Sunday. My mother's bagels were fabulous. So Thursday was one of my favorite days. I don't know anybody else that I've ever seen that. She made a potato kugel. It was kind of in a bun form with like an angel food cake with a little circle in the middle, and it was cooked well, and it was baked. It was, oh my God, it was just fabulous. I don't think my mother had fancy glasses. She often used jelly jars. Yeah, she used jelly jars. And I don't think any of our glasses ever matched up. That would be your drinking glass. So, when the company came, you had fancy glasses, but for everyday use, you had jars of jam, and that's what. But some of the restaurants are doing that now. They're using jelly jars and mason jars.